I'll probably wait till after. Yeah. Rick Hansen. It's not the Rick Hansen, though. I mean, it's a Rick Hansen. Unless he's like here by accident. Rick Hansen is a Dharma teacher, so that's why I say that. Dharma teachers don't come to other Dharma teachers' classes. So unless they're maybe trying to steal my material or something, you know. So what else do I want to say here before we get started? I'm just admitting people into the, I'm sure like if you're watching
me
a video.
too. You can talk and I'll
admit. Okay, all right. I'll turn it over to you now, Monica. And what I was thinking, what I realized the last class is that after about 5 minutes of guided meditation, I always open my eyes to try to check on things. Keep an eye on people, kind of. So after about 5 minutes, just go. I'll just take over, and you'll see me if you're watching. You'll see me opening my eyes and getting and starting to click people in, and then you can enjoy your meditation. Because after that amount of time, there's usually only a couple people that come on, so I catch them in the course of the sit. Okay. So we're another Friday night. Opportunity to practice together. Nice thing to do. I've mentioned this. I think I'm going to have a cough drop. My throat feels a little scratchy. I've mentioned this, but I'm going to say it again because it's really on my mind that I've been reading Ajahn Buddhadasa's book on the Anapanasati Sutta called Mindfulness with Breathing. And it's really having a big effect on my practice and on my kind of daily life. I'm being more mindful, just more often, of more really working more more consistently with the breath. So he has an interesting observation, something I was sort of aware of, but had maybe not thought of it in the same way, where he talks about following the breath, where you're kind of with the sort of movement of breath, and maybe you follow it all the way into your body, or there's sort of a sense of I'm with an in-breath, I'm with an out-breath. And then he calls this other way of doing this guarding the breath, where you put your attention just at one place, like typically at the tip of the nose, and just feel the breath right at that spot. You're not following it going in or feeling the movement. You're just with that one spot. It's an interesting, just sort of, and it's not that one is preferable to another, but just to realize, oh, right, what do I need to do right now? Like following the breath is a little easier because it's just kind of like a movement, and you can sort of flow with that. Whereas guarding the breath requires a little bit more effort and a little more concentration, but then it allows for a deepening of concentration. So let's begin our set. We're just taking a meditation posture that's supportive of your practice. And that can be sitting or lying down, could also be standing or walking. We do want to be positioned in a way that we can stay alert and not fall asleep. That's the one risk with lying down. But if you need to be in a prone posture, that's fine. I usually recommend that you keep your eyes open if you're lying down. And if you're sitting, you can close your eyes or just lower your gaze. And turning the attention inward. Go just feeling how your body is situated. Feeling the energy in your body. And starting to direct the attention to the breath. And just feeling the movement of breath. And try to let the breath go fully into the body. So it's not that we're controlling the breath, but there's a sense of softening and opening, particularly the belly, to give space for the breath. When the breath moves in this way, there's a natural calming that happens to body and mind. And so as we start to try to tune in, we notice if there are any persistent thoughts or a strong mood or sensation, anything that's really distracting. Can take the attention away very easily before we've settled. So just gently but persistently returning to the breath. So this sort of opening phase of our sit takes a good amount of patience sometimes, and a kind of understanding that it's natural for the mind to wander. That we don't find ourselves getting frustrated or struggling, just continuing to return. Each time we return to the breath, re-aiming, reasserting our attention to those sensations. Buddhadasa Bhikkhu calls this practice mindfulness with breathing, as opposed to mindfulness of breathing. So this suggests and really points to a mindfulness that's not limited to the breath, but happens along with awareness of the breath. We feel the breath and we feel the body. We feel the breath and we feel the emotions or the mood. We feel the breath and we notice the thoughts that pull us away. as the attention begins to settle, you might start to guard the breath by placing your awareness at that particular point, typically at the tip of the nostrils or the upper lip, wherever you first feel the breath. And just allowing the sensations to pass through that point, to feel the in and out breath at that point. And this allows the body to become more calm and potentially for a pleasant feeling to come. And while we don't want to practice striving for pleasant experiences, if they arise in meditation naturally, we can use them as a focal point, as a way of becoming absorbed. This can be very appealing to the mind to have a pleasant sensation to focus on. All right. So just for in the realm of announcements, Debbie is going to teach the class on Tuesday morning. Going on vacation with my family. And my plan is to, I don't know about next Friday. Next Friday is going to be a problem. That's New Year's Eve. Christmas Eve, sorry, getting ahead of myself. The following Friday will be New Year's Eve. That's not such a problem, but we have plans for Christmas Eve, so we'll figure something out. So people can at least get together. We are in step 12 of One Breath at a Time, which I've been working on for a long time. And just about at the end, we have right now still working through the Eightfold Path, which falls under the category of breadth of practice in step 12. And so I was actually looking at what I'll probably work on next, which is my second book, A Burning Desire. And it's really kind of my favorite book of mine. And so I think it'll be fun to go through it with people. I haven't really looked at it closely over the years because it's one that's, I don't know, just kind of there. So we'll see. And as I so my topic for tonight was going to be right intention, and I will probably get to that. Oh, Reverend Shriekchild wants to get in the meeting. I see some people just show up for the talk and skip the meditation. I see how that is. We're not going to shame them though or anything. But I did want to talk about this experience of going to the hospital and particularly the drugs. But as I said, I've been working a lot with mindfulness of breath, and I mean it's sort of like ridiculous. It's like you're a meditation teacher who's been teaching mindfulness of breath for 25 years, and now you're telling us now that you're working a lot on mindfulness of breath. But what can I tell you? It's just sort of kicked in on another level right now. And so I found myself, as soon as I was in the hospital, and they, if you've been through anything like this before, you go into a room and they put you in your robe with your butt hanging out, and you sit there and they, do stuff, but it's nothing really happening. And I was sitting on a gurney and they said, you can lie down. I was like, I don't want to lie down. So I just sat on the edge and I just kept following my breath. And I felt really, really present and very concentrated, not quite, but very mindful. And a lot of very positive feelings. First of all, because there's this sense in that situation, really, because you're mostly interacting with nurses and people of that kind of place. Not a lot of doctors. So I did a little bit with the doctors, but there, I just have this. First of all, this feeling of love that comes from those people, the devotion, and knowing like these people work really hard at this work, and it's really hard. It's really difficult work, and we're so dependent on them. And they're so precious, and I mean, this whole cliche about like frontline workers, but, being there and being with these people who are doing that work, I just really felt this great appreciation and gratitude. And then they give you the drugs, and of course unconscious most of the time, but whenever, this is the third time I've had a surgery in sobriety. That's over the 36 years. It was, first time was when I was 2 years sober. And I'm a drug addict, you know. And one of the reasons I know that is when they give me the drugs, I feel normal. And I think that the way I'm feeling is like just kind of the way I really am. And I was feeling all this love. And I felt like and, you know, afterward, and, you know, I was under general anesthesia when it came out, and then you're in recovery, and they're like, okay, we're going to give you this pill. What's your level of pain? And I was honest about the level of pain, and it wasn't bad, but it was, you know, and they're going to give it to you, you know, which is, you know, you take it, and, you know, it's a prescription. It's not like abusing drugs. But I'm high, you know, and I don't really, I sort of know I'm high, but I don't really think I'm high, you know, because this is sort of like my natural state, to be high. And so I'm working with mindfulness of breathing, and I'm high, and which is, you know, interesting. I mean, I did that before I got sober too, not like this, but because I started to meditate, as many of you know, before I got sober. So I had tried it, but it's really interesting. Like, I think I'm going to have to define it as wrong mindfulness, that even though I'm mindful of the breath, that there's an essential element lacking, you know, that the drugs themselves just make it impossible to be truly mindful. And so realizing that, and as I said, a lot of feelings of like kind of like a drunk guy, like, I love you, man, kind of thing, with the nurses and everybody who's taking care of me, like just this great appreciation, you know. And so on the one hand, these are like really positive things. There's mindfulness of breath, there's loving kindness and compassion. But on the other hand, it's all kind of diluted, you know, and it's realizing that, like, these feelings are are conditioned by my mind state. So my whole perception of reality is being altered by the drugs, and my perception of who I am and how I feel, you know, it's all just a whole like condition. And I mean, it's, in a way, it's totally obvious, but for addicts, it's really complicated, because, like I say, the bottom line of it is that, like, it feels normal to me. It feels like, oh yeah, this is now normal. I'm normally a really loving mindfulness person, you know, and it's sort of like, no, I'm not. I mean, you know, I'm not really like somebody who's like a glad hander or something, you know, like, oh, you guys are, you know, that's not really my personality. So fortunately, you know, it was only really overnight that I took the medication. It was Wednesday, and then the last med I took a half on Thursday morning, like 5 a.m, and that was the end of that. Since then, just Tylenol. So I'm clean now, I think we can say, you know. And then, you know, as the day went on yesterday, I started to feel more normal. And I was like, oh yeah, those people were nice, you know, but I don't really feel these oceanic waves of love for them, you know, and I'm really grateful intellectually for what they did, but I don't feel the same anymore. And it's like, I was fucking high, you know, I just like, that's what was happening. And it just fools me, you know, and it's so, I see why it's so easy to be in denial, and how people could get addicted to, like, I was never addicted to opioids, but like, I can totally see how you'd be like, well, this is how I should feel. This is okay. It's not like I'm woo woo, you know, some kind of crazy mindset. It feels like sort of normal. So it's just so seductive, you know. You know, the downside is that like, you know, you're woozy and all that shit. And so you sort of, at some point you realize, no, this isn't really sustainable. But anyway, I just found it very, once again, I mean, an opportunity really to watch my mind, to watch my experience, and to learn, and to try to bring my practice into these difficult and complicated situations, and keep that kind of investigating, questioning attitude, and then working with pain. It's been really pretty easy by and large, but and like self-care, and not overdoing. Like I knew, like today I needed to get up. Like yesterday I was like, no, I don't need, I should probably not get up. Today I was like, no, I probably should get up. The thing of like, well, I could lie in bed and watch the rest of the Beatles documentary, but it's probably a good idea for me to move my body. So I just wanted to share that stuff, and just to, because we all go through this, and I just think it's important for all of us, as addicts, particularly, to like, okay, be very aware of like the drugs, and very aware of using them only to the level we need. And some of us hate them, and some of us like really, can relapse. Different people have different impacts on them. I'm sort of in between. I sort of hate them, but I sort of love them. So, but I just hope that sharing kind of is helpful if any of you have to go through stuff, and just to keep it, always try to keep these experiences as part of your practice, not like, oh, this is different, because it's like, yeah, I am of the nature to age, to sicken, and to die. That's my practice. So taking refuge in that. So yeah, intention. Maybe I should just like open it up for a minute. Let me just open it up for a minute if there are any, questions or comments, or anybody wanted to make about that, since I'm going to change topics. And that was pretty heavy. I don't know if it was heavy, but sort of. Applause from Bill. Thanks, Bill. Or is that raising your hand?
I was raising my hand.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
The wrong reaction, but
Well,
wrong icon.
I didn't see the one I wanted there, so I just thought
That's cool.
I'd pick one anyway. And it's interesting because a week ago today, I had a procedure. It wasn't general anesthetic, but I knew that they were going to give me something to do this. And I told you in the past that, I mean, I've been sober for 40 years from alcohol, but from injuries from work, I ended up being after I retired, I was really addicted to painkillers for a long time. And I've been good for about almost 5 years now. But going into that procedure, I knew I was going to get high. I knew that, just the stuff that they gave me to kind of semi put you under.
Yeah. Oh, those are really nice.
I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
It's just a weird thing. I knew I had to get this thing done, but I was actually looking forward to it. And it's a real sick kind of a feeling, to know that this was something that I need, but in the same respect, I'm looking forward to it. So I just thought I'd share that. It's a real devilish thing. And it's something that can really, I think it's going to impact me the rest of my life, because I just know that I'm an addict. That's just the way it goes. Yeah. So.
Yeah, we have to stay really close to our program in those moments. That's the key to me, is just really stay, just don't let yourself, get into any, have a plan kind of too, is like, have a plan. And I always tell the doctors, like, I'm really sensitive to drugs. Don't give me much, Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks, Bill. Charlie, hi.
Hi, Kevin. Yeah, I've had a couple of surgeries in recovery, and I was a heroin addict for many years. So when I get that initial, before you go into surgery, they give you that initial shot. I would say it's like, oh,
yeah,
I forgot how good this is.
Yeah.
But what I really wanted to point out for people that that are going through, surgeries or having to take medication is the advice that my sponsors gave me. And that is the first thing, is to let people know that you're going to be going into surgery, about it. And then the other thing he did was he had me write down every time I took, the medication, they gave me stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really good, because what the danger is that you're taking the medication that's prescribed, but you're already loaded. So your decision making is pretty screwed.
Yeah.
And from what I've heard from people that have relapsed, they've already kind of relapsed before they could actually really admit it to themselves.
Mm.
So just by writing it down and being accountable. Also, I've heard of other people giving them pain medication to their spouse, or having them give it. I think these are all things that are really important.
Yeah. Thanks, Charlie. I mean, literally, you lose track of time, right? Yeah. So it's like, how many hours was that? Oh, and there can be that cutting corners, and or if you wait too long, then the pain can kick in. Like, you should take it, right? Like, if at very early, right after the surgery, it's really wise to take the prescription, because if you wait too long, then you can get in a lot of pain, and then oh, maybe I better take an extra one. Yeah. My wife watches over me really carefully in these moments, and she's making sure I'm on track with it. So absolutely. Yeah, it's helpful to have a partner at those times.
Cool.
Thanks, Charlie. Brian, did you have your hand up? I think it went down. Yeah, no, I guess it is up.
Yeah. So when you were telling your story there, I was going, oh yeah, that sounds familiar. That sounds familiar. And I couldn't quite place it, but I was right there with you, and then it, just as you talked about, hey, maybe we should open it up. I was like, oh, I'm not sure what I would say, but then it came to me, and it was last week. It was last Friday at my favorite bakery. For the season, they started making tiramisu, and I've heard different things about tiramisu and whatnot. And I asked, so I got there, and I was going to get bakery goods anyway, and I asked them, "Do you got any of that tiramisu? Because I hear you keep some in the freezer." And they said, "Oh, we got some tiramisu." I said, "Oh, that sounds good. How many you got?" They said, "We got 5. There's 2 in each container. We get 5 containers." I said, "I'll take them all." And I'm gonna, give them my in-laws for Christmas, whatever. Bring them down to dinner. But,
so you say, yeah.
So there's only 3 left now. No, but so I asked them. I said, "Okay, let me get the skinny on this. So what's the deal with this tiramisu? Does it got alcohol in it, or what?" And they said, the woman that was there, she wasn't like an expert by any means, clearly, but she says, no, there's no alcohol in it, except for the wafer. The wafer has alcohol in it, and it's soaked in rum. She says something like that. I said, okay, all right, fine. So now I've got it. I've got them home. My wife is not around. She was down in the cities with the family, and I'm going to go dipping into that tiramisu and see what's. Oh, looky, there's no wafer. There's no wafer at all. I'm good to go, right? I didn't even have to pull it off. And so I go in, I'm sitting there, I'm eating my tiramisu, and I get about 2/3 of the way done with this chunk of, it's like this big. It's like a nice chunk of tiramisu.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is a little weird. I feel a little bit weird here. I'm like, a little goofy, just a little bit, And then I realized that I was like, oh, it's like, how you get those little grinders for food, like the real fine spices. You want to put a spice on, like a cinnamon. You got a cinnamon nut. You want to put that on. I think what they did is they did use that with the wafer, and so what looked like cinnamon was actually this wafer. So I was actually apparently getting a dose last week, and I actually kind of just took it as a moment of like mindfulness. Like, what is this right now? What am I feeling? Where am I going? Do I want more?
Yeah.
And that sort of thing. So it was a very interesting excursion, I guess. And, you know, am I being honest about this? Where am I with myself? Did I put myself in this position? What are you going to do now? And that sort of thing. But I did have the opportunity, fortunately, to notice that I was, I didn't really like where I was, the actual feeling of it. Fortunate for me, I wasn't completely repulsed or repelled, but I didn't really like it, and I didn't feel like I needed anymore, and that was great.
Good.
So anyway,
and you probably didn't have enough to qualify as intoxicated. So, but
no, but a touch, yeah.
But I think you've triggered half the people on the call now. Not because of the alcohol, because of the dessert. Got a lot of food addicts here, and those who aren't food addicts are just for those for whom food isn't their primary addiction, it's their secondary addiction. So we're all triggered here. But thank you. Yeah. Next time. Yeah. Okay. Tricky. Steve, I know you're one of the people who's triggered, so you know.
Oh yeah, I hear tiramisu and oh man, I don't want any of that stuff around me. You know, thank you for sharing that story. I mean, you know me, I got a 40-year history with the opioid abuse, and you know, it was kind of an ironic thing when I had this last heart procedure. I found myself, I put the pills down 3 years and 3 months ago, finally, after all those years of dealing with that stuff. And after that surgery, I found myself, okay, I accepted a pain pill, you know, and because I wanted to see what it would be like again. You know, I wanted to say, well, I haven't had a high for 3.5 years, you know. And then my wife still takes the damn things. And so she comes to visit me and, oh, honey, I'm still hurting a little bit. I wasn't hurting, you know, so I got one from her. It's like I'm totally breaking my, the commitment I made is to stay off these damn pills. It was legitimate. It was okay. But then I found myself going, you know, I didn't feel a damn thing. So I was going through all these head games and I'm going, this is just a complete waste of time. You know, what am I doing here? And so consequently, I shared with you guys that I had all this dental work and these implants going on. And the dental surgeon comes in and asks me, so what kind of pain medication do you like? And it's like, wait, you can't wait to write me a prescription. What kind of pain meds? What do you like?
What do you got?
Give me a bottle of Demerol or something. What the hell, you know? It's like I said, no, thank you. I don't take those things anymore. And that was a moment in time. And I was thinking about, you know, you were going to go in for surgery, and I knew they'd probably give you some pain medication. But oh my God, I think that's one of the most grateful things I've experienced my entire life is not to have to take that crap. I was the kind of a guy who would just take handfuls of the things, you know. It just was a complete waste of time and energy. But thank you for sharing that. It was very well put. I never really looked at it that way, you know. So yeah, those are gone. No, thank you. I'd have to be in pretty bad shape to take pain pills again.
Yeah. Really Steve. I have to say, you know, while I was going through a lot of this, I thought I'm really being spiritual in this. I'm really handling this well. I'm so like mindful and loving, and like, this is going to be great because I can share this when I teach. And then afterwards I was like, what the fuck? I was just loaded. Like, once again, you know, it's just so interesting, you know, the way
I love that part. Thank you for sharing.
You know,
that's great.
And frankly, I think a lot of people have spiritual experiences on drugs. You know, it's a very common thing. And then they think that it's a spiritual experience. And that's one of the reasons I know it's not psychedelics. I know that opioids are totally different from psychedelics, but I'm not convinced that there's really a qualitative difference well, I could get in trouble with the psychedelic community for saying it, but because the psychedelic community says you can get off opioids by taking psychedelics, but God bless them all, not for me.
Can have all of
Paula, hi. Thanks, Steve.
Hey, Greg. Yeah, I've been on, I'm an alcoholic. I only used heroin socially.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. I've had several surgeries, and it's kind of like a time at a time.
Yeah.
But I have a very healthy fear. And when the doctor asked me how much I need, I always tell him, you don't have enough. There's not enough.
Yeah.
And so I heard this, somebody, Jimmy T, who's gone now, but had a lot of health problems, used to say, if you're taking something because something happened, it's okay. If you're taking something to make something happen, then it may not be.
Yeah, right.
And yeah, I have to look at that. If I'm taking medication because I'm in so much pain, I can't function, then that's all right. But
Yeah.
if I'm thinking, well, I don't want to be in pain, so I'm going to take one a little early. That's not okay. And I have to be accountable. So I always tell people, I tell my husband, I tell people, so that I'm accountable, because when I'm under the influence, we're the only people I know that go to the dentist and hope we need oral surgery.
Yeah, really.
So yeah, it's a time at a time. And I feel bad when people beat themselves up over it, because try doing that procedure without taking anything.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I had a lot of infected skin cut out, and I ended up having almost 400 stitches and like 260 staples. And somebody came up to me and said, well, if you took medication, you have to change your sobriety date.
Oh, screw that.
Well, I looked at them and I said, if you go through the same surgery I went through without medication, I will change my sobriety date.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been sober since I'm 19.
Stupid.
And just because I'm in recovery doesn't mean I have to feel subject myself to a lot of pain.
No. There's a lot of ignorance in
just need to be cautious and aware and accountable. Have somebody else that I'm accountable to, because I know that I won't be I'm not in my right mind now either, but I'm not going to be in my right mind and high. So there's certain medications that I know that are going to be harder for me to not take if I take them. And I give my doctor the list and I say, these are medications that I cannot take. I will have an allergic reaction.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am going to break out in handcuffs. So I have to be very aware of that. It's like, I guess we learn to live life a little differently.
Yeah.
A normal person, I guess their car breaks down, they get a tow truck. My car breaks down, I call Suicide Hotline, my sponsor, 2 other alcoholics. Somebody calls a tow truck.
Yeah. Really.
And I guess that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you're okay.
Thanks. Thank you.
I'm going to shut up and let somebody else have it.
Thanks, Paula. Yeah. I know I don't think most people like to be on narcotics, but I don't know. Reverend Freakchild, it looks like you have your hand raised. But
the
nobody
alias.
can tell. What? Oh, what?
Kevin, good to see you.
He
Yeah,
shows
glad
his
you survived.
face.
I'm glad you survived the surgery.
Yeah, thanks. It was nice to hear from you yesterday.
Yeah, it's just, I had one of those hernia surgeries years ago, and not so fun, but yeah, the complications, that delicate balance of the chemical intake to be able to, work with the modern medicine there. And yeah, I think you were about to talk about intentionality, right? Like, and that was the key for me of like, when I got out of that surgery, I told the nurse, I just like reacted. She was like, okay, so what do you want? And I was like, I don't want any drug. I'm a grapefruit recovering drug addict. You know, it was just like right up front with her, you know?
Yeah.
And she's like, you sure? Like people come in here being like, I want the purple ones, you know, that are like round, you know, like, I was like, wow, geez Louise, right. But then the doctor was telling me, he's like, man, you're going to destroy your stomach with all that taking too much Tylenol. You know, you need something heavy right here for the first thing. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. So yeah, that delicate balance of like, where's my intentionality with that? And yeah, telling people, whether it's your partner or your community, you know, and then following up with that, like being accountable, not only to myself, but like sponsor and like, oh yeah, I'm writing this down or telling somebody about it. But, you know, and it's like the analogy, right? It's like taking that tiger or lion or wild animal out of the cage. Like, oh, let's walk this thing around. Whoa, got to put it back in that cage at some point, man. And that's going to suck because you're going to come down off that stuff. And like, I think that's what you're talking about. Like, oh, wow, I was having real feelings and thoughts and they were based on sort of my dharmic intentions, but they were kind of a little out of whack there. And the other side of that too is the delicate balance too. I don't know if you've ever heard that story about the guy that goes to, it's like a dentist or whatever, and the dentist's like, oh, well, you need medication. And the guy's like, dude, I'm a recovering drug addict. You know, I don't need that. You know, the pain's not that bad. He's like, I'm the doctor, you know, I'll tell you what's right, you know. And the guy's like, well, you better, you know, write me out like 3 or 4 scripts and I'll be back here like next Monday, man, asking for more. And he's like, all right, I'll just put that pad away. You know, it's like, we know ourselves, you know, so where's that line? And yeah, you know, it just comes back to that thing about, like, I heard in early recovery, it's like, you know, addicts don't come in pills and bottles and baggies. Addicts come in people. Like, I'm the addict. Whatever you're putting on the table, food, sex, drugs, rock and roll, I just want more of it. And before I know it, you know, it's like the holidays. Damn, I'm like eating some donuts and like gingerbread. And before I know it, I'm like, oh my God, why am I doing this? It's like I'm running after that sugar high. You know, it's like, wow. You
But
know,
don't put rock and roll in there, man. That's I have a problem with that. People with sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Like, rock and roll is a spiritual experience, man. Come on.
Well, I love that line from the Spinal Tap, right? Where he's like, well, what would you do if you didn't play rock and roll? And he's like, well, you know, I could just do the sex and the drugs. Anyway, man, great to see you. I'm glad you survived the surgery.
Thank you. Thanks. It's nice to see you too. Your hair looks good, you know, so as usual.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Yeah, you know, you got me thinking something I was going to say now, but I was being a wise ass, so I forgot what it was. Let's see.
I love the wise ass. More wise ass.
I know.
The Dharma shines through there. The rock and roll shines through. It's all good. Thanks, man. Happy holidays, everybody.
Yeah, we're just about out of time anyway, but and well, I guess not surprisingly, this triggered some commentary from people, which is good, you know. You know, oh, I know, I was going to tell you that the last thing, they roll me in on the gurney, the anesthesiologist, you know, and it was, you know, anyway, the anesthesiologist rolls me in there, just about, they're giving me some oxygen, and I'm looking up the anesthesiologist. I'm like, what, you know, what drugs are you going to give me? I'm going to give you fentanyl. I'm like, oh my God. And I was like, then I'm like, have you watched Dope Sick? He was like, yeah, I'm about halfway through it. That's pretty good. I was like, yeah, that thing's terrible. It's like, that's the last thing I remember before I went out. Have you seen Dope Sick? Good night. Here's your fentanyl. See you later. Oh my God. I was like, I thought fentanyl was for horses. What is this? And he's like, no, that's ivermectin. But anyway, that's a Rachel Maddow joke for you. So folks, yeah, I'm going to save intention because it's such a great topic. But yeah, and so Debbie, you want to say hello to the people?
Yes, hi there. I am looking forward to filling for you next week, and
All right.
I'll leave intention to you though.
Okay.
We'll see what comes up. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Well, I really appreciate you stepping in, and yeah, because it's already hard enough to teach with these other people, and there's extra person in the house because some people don't respect the meditation class the same way, some people should respect the meditation class. So if we were on in the vacation house, it might be even harder. So this is best for everyone.
Well, I totally understand because the following 2 weeks will be that way for me.
Right.
So this is nice to be able to really be fully in it next Tuesday. So
Yeah,
thank
good. That'll be your Christmas talk or whatever.
or whatever. Yeah.
Your gift to the community.
The gift to the community.
There you go.
Thank you, Kevin, for
All right.
the opportunity, and yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. All right, folks. So safe weekend. Pandemic is on the loose. I know you guys aren't crazy. My daughter was exposed to COVID last week, and she's been tested 3 times this week, and she's okay. But SantaCon in New York was a big spreader. But we're the people that probably aren't going to SantaCon, so I think we're going to be okay. So be well, and I will see you before long. As I said, I'll make something happen next Friday night, even if I have to get on my phone and just start the meeting and give a place for people to share, or go into the bathroom at my friend's house, because we're going to not neighbors, but friends for dinner. So I'll make something happen. So, all right. Be well.
Be happy.
Be happy too. Yeah. Good night.
Good night, Kevin.
Good night, Kevin.
Good night.
Thanks,
Night,
Kev.
Kevin.
Take it easy,
Thanks,
everybody.
guys.
Take
Be
care,
well.
Kevin. Thank you
Nice
for
to see
tonight.
everybody.
Bye,
Yeah,
Monica.
thanks.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
All
so
right.
much.
Okay, Abigail.
Good
Night,
night.
everybody.
Good night.
Peace.
Bye.
I'm going to the 49er game, but I'm going to wear a mask.
Whoa. Well, you'll be outside. That's fine. Because we're
Take care.
we're going to a Warriors game next week. So
Yeah, I know. It's like, I'm wearing the mask though.
yeah, I'm gonna have to wear a mask through the whole game, but
Stay safe.
I will.
See ya.
3, 2, 1. Good night. Good night, Ann.